Welcome to another episode of Kieran's Movie Space. I'm Kieran and this is my spoiler-free review of First Man. First Man is directed by Damien Chazelle. He also directed La La Land and Whiplash, which are two of my favourite movies of the last few years. The film stars Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon. And this is really a film about Neil Armstrong's personal struggles and the sacrifices he made to get mankind to the moon. Like I said, I loved both La La Land and Whiplash, so when I heard that Damien Chazelle would be making this movie and telling this story, I got really excited because his technical ability as a director is perfectly suited for this kind of story, and now that I've seen the film, I'm really glad to say that my excitement wasn't misplaced. I absolutely adored this film. It's epic, it's brutal, it's bold, but it's also really personal, and it's this really intimate kind of story about Neil Armstrong, who was much more than just the first man to walk on the moon. So starting with the positives, I've got to say that while First Man works for a number of reasons, and I'll talk about most of them here, the film's biggest strength is undoubtedly Damien Chazelle's direction. A lot of directors would have approached this film as a blockbuster and delivered all of the special effects and epic sequences that come with a blockbuster, but Chazelle's really pulled the focus towards the more personal side of the story, and instead of focusing all of his attention on the launch and the landing, Chazelle really emphasises the brutality of this mission, the countless tests that were conducted, the lives that were lost, and the psychological strain that all of this stuff would have on these men. It's clear watching the film as well that Chazelle had a very specific vision for this movie, which was to place us as the audience in Neil Armstrong's shoes and have us experience these exhilarating and terrifying events as if we were sat next to Neil the whole time. That's something that we don't really see in many space movies. Usually we're looking from the outside in, and from there everything looks kind of beautiful. But when you're on the inside looking out, it's not as grand and beautiful as they've led us to believe. Chazelle, along with cinematographer Linus Sandgren, have made sure to show us how brutal and violent and scary this mission really was. These astronauts were put through hell. They're basically being shot into space in a Coke can, and Chazelle makes sure that we feel every bump, hear every screw grind, and really feel the danger that came with every launch, test, and crash. And that's not to say that this film doesn't have its beautiful moments, because it absolutely does. Sandgren's cinematography really captures the beautiful side of space travel. The launch sequence is absolutely breathtaking, and because of the documentary style that Chazelle's adopted for the film, it feels and looks like actual 1960s footage of the launch. Then of course we get the landing sequence, which was shot in IMAX, and that was just the most beautiful sequence that I've seen all year. I rarely say that you need to see a film in IMAX, but I'm going to say that if you have the option, you should definitely see this on the biggest screen or on an IMAX screen if you can. Ryan Gosling is really good in this movie. He's really good in everything that I've seen him in, but of the performances that I've seen, this is probably my favourite. He obviously made a name for himself playing these very stoic characters, and he's doing that again here. Neil Armstrong really wasn't known as a very talkative guy. He kept most of his thoughts and his feelings to himself, but he was also this really emotional guy. He went through a lot even before he joined NASA, and while he never let those emotions show, even to his family, you could always see them bubbling under the surface of Gosling's performance, and it was just spectacular to watch. Claire Foy, who I loved as the Queen on The Crown, she plays Neil's wife Janet, and because Neil is such a stoic character, a lot of the more emotional and dramatic moments in the film come from Claire Foy's performance, and she's undeniably brilliant in this film. Some of you out there might know that I'm a massive fan of movie scores. Whenever I see a film, I always try and listen to a bit of the score, and while Chazelle utilises silence in this film, there's a lot of sequences that don't have any music behind them. The score by Justin Hurwitz is phenomenal. There are moments where the score just kicks in and it just enhances a scene and makes it this really epic and powerful moment, and the score just raises the entire film to a whole new level. The only real issue that I have with First Man is the long run time. This is a really long film. I think it went on for just under 2.5 hours, and for the most part, Chazelle does keep us entertained for that run time. I've got to admit though that somewhere in the second act, the film seemed to kind of stall. It didn't get boring or anything like that, it just seemed to get stuck, and for a while we weren't really going anywhere. Thankfully, the mesmerising, emotional, and epic finale, which rivals some of the best that I've ever seen in the genre, more than compensate for the loss of momentum. Minor issues aside, First Man is an outstanding achievement for everyone involved. Damien Chazelle has delivered his most sophisticated, compelling, and emotional film so far, and the young director has managed to tell an intimate, personal, and inspiring story about a husband and father, which still acknowledges and respects how significant and dangerous and inspiring the moon landing was for humanity. Alright guys, that's it for this review. Have you seen First Man? Let me know what you thought of it in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and share, and if you enjoyed the review, hit subscribe. Again, thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.